Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And before I start this video, just a heads up, I'm gonna do another Q&A video very soon. So make sure to send me all of your questions, whether it's recovery related, whether it's about my own story, whether it's about eating disorders in general, or anything else related to the topic. Send them down here or send me an email. You can reach me through my website, on my Instagram, on TikTok. My handle is Heal with Marlene, and I will make sure to cover all your questions and to answer them. But let's dive right into the topic as we always do. And today we're going to talk about overanalyzing your eating disorder. I'm going to start with telling you a little bit about myself. When I had an eating disorder, I was constantly pushing back the start of recovery. And I think that is something that we see in a lot of people. I see it in my clients, I see it in my patients in the clinic, and it is unfortunately a big part of recovery. But after seeing people recovering and after being recovered myself, I can assure you, I've nearly never met somebody who didn't regret not starting earlier. The eating disorder makes us push the start of our recovery back and back and back. And once we're recovered, most of us are like, damn, I wish I had started earlier. For me personally, one of the big things why I pushed recovery back was that I thought I have to know why I developed an eating disorder. And as we all know, it's not that simple. Eating disorders are like multidisciplinary. Culture can play a role, your family can play a role, trauma can play a role, underlying mental health issues can play a role, bullying. There are so many things that play a role in the development in eating disorders that it is oftentimes not really the number one reason or like just one reason. Yet I thought I have to find the one reason. I thought I have to overanalyze my whole childhood. There were sessions in therapy where I talked about like situations my parent had told me about when I was a baby, and I was convinced that this situation when I was just a little baby and someone didn't hear me screaming, that was why I developed an eating disorder. Well, I think it's not really a surprise that I never really found the number one reason. Therapy really helped me to start to understand myself, to understand my patterns and my character, to understand why it is so hard for me to set boundaries, why I'm such a people pleaser, and also honestly why it is so important for me to change that, because a lot of times I actually didn't want to change that. But the thing is, especially with restrictive eating disorders and with eating disorders that have like a lot of strong behaviors, they oftentimes or like always serve a purpose. And that purpose oftentimes is to distract yourself from emotions or to suppress those emotions. So for me personally, it wasn't even possible to do all the psychology and all the like therapeutic work before I started eating disorder recovery, because my emotions were buried so deep and were covered up with my eating disorder so much that I didn't even feel all the emotions that were basically answers to my question. So even though I never found the number one reason, and as I said before, there is no number one reason, for me it was just like a combination of so many different things. And part of it was also like my character. As a very sensitive person, a lot of those things that happened to me had a bigger impact than they would have on somebody else, of course. But again, I did not understand that until I started eating disorder recovery, because that allowed me to actually truly go through this. It's like nearly like a metamorphosis, and it allowed me to go through this process of getting to know myself again, of getting to know my real values outside of my eating disorder, getting to know who I am without my eating disorder, the person I identified as, because for such a long time I identified as the sick person, or the person also like partially that is so disciplined, that's working hard, and that with all these things like still is holding up her eating disorder. That was definitely something that I identified with a lot, and I needed to let that go to find my real identity. And that didn't happen overnight at all. It took me a lot of years to actually find out who I really am, but within those years I always took small steps. I always had situations where I understood, oh, that is a strong value of mine. Oh, that's something I don't really like in other people, so I probably don't like it in myself too. So I definitely had all those little steps. And of course, getting to know yourself is always a progress. I think over the years of our life, we will always have more situations in which we understand ourselves better. But I can say that I am at a point now where I know myself really well, where I know what I want and what I don't want, and where I know my values. But again, that was not possible before I started eating disorder recovery. One of the reasons why people overanalyze their recovery so much is, first of all, a lot of people who develop eating disorders are actually not only pretty smart, but also like very sensitive and very analytical. There's parts of our brains that can measure those traits, and studies have shown that a lot of people who develop eating disorders have those traits, which you can actually turn into something very positive, but it can also go the other way around. So a lot of people like need to understand every single thing before just like daring to start recovery, because eating disorder recovery can be scary, and especially before you start it, taking that step, dealing with everything that comes with it, can feel super scary. There is a reason why your eating disorder is still so loud, why it's still there. And that reason is that it feels like it served you at one point. Maybe it was because it suppressed those emotions. Maybe it was because how the people reacted to you. Maybe it was because people thought you're disciplined or you're active or you are so healthy, because eating disorders are not only super anorexic. Eating disorders come in all sorts and shapes, and that can actually play a big role in being afraid of letting go of that, because if what you hear from other people is mainly positive, that can be just as challenging as letting go of the sick identity. So that is one big reason. And another reason is, of course, your eating disorder doesn't want to go. Your eating disorder wants to stick with you. Your eating disorder will do everything to convince you that you need it and that it should stick around. So telling you that you should like find the one reason when it's not even possible is a great and very sneaky way of the eating disorder to make sure that you're not letting go of it. Because as long as you're concentrating on finding the reason, on like overanalyzing your childhood or your past, you will probably not focus that much on letting go of your eating disorder. So I really hope this short video helps you to understand that you do not have to find the reason in order to start recovery, and that recovery will probably even help you to understand yourself better and not the other way around. And of course, I also hope that it made clear for you that your eating disorder is so sneaky, and that if you think you're afraid of recovery and that it's not for you, that is probably not your true self speaking, but it is the eating disorder. But the louder the eating disorder is, and in some cases also the more you restrict and the lower your energy is, the more you will listen to the eating disorder instead of to the healthy voice. I've seen that with patients that I'm working with in a client. The more people are restricting and not nourishing themselves, the more they will automatically engage in ED behaviors. If they have phases where they eat a good amount and where they are challenging their fear foods, I oftentimes see a change in them, and I see that their motivation to recover is coming back a little bit. So that being said, I really hope I was able to motivate you to either stick with recovery or to start recovery, because I can promise you it is possible. If you feel like you need more support, you can reach out to me. I currently have a few spots open for recovery coaching, or I can also help you to find a good fit for you, whether that's a therapist, a dietitian, or maybe another coach. I just want to make sure that everyone who's watching this video receives the message and understands that recovery is possible, and that you don't have to wait until you found your reason for your eating disorder. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.